It's Mindy, and today we're going to read this book by Javaka Steptoe called Radiant Child. It's the story of a young artist named Jean-Michel Basquiat. And I wanted to start with the back of the book really quick because it tells a little bit about who he was, and it asks the people who are reading the book to point out these three motifs. It says, for Basquiat, the crown represents many things, such as the power of strength, and often he gave crowns to people in his work as a sign of respect. So there's this little crown. You can look for this all throughout the book. And then it says right here that eyes were often represented remembering, seeing, or understanding the past and the present. And there's often cars in his work too. Cars, trucks, and airplanes often symbolized Basquiat's childhood and the car accident that he experienced when he was younger that badly injured him. So let's start out with this book, Radiant Child, about Jean-Michel Basquiat. There's the crown that we were just talking about. Somewhere in Brooklyn, between hearts that thump, double dutch and hopscotch, in salty mouths that slurp sweet tea, a little boy dreams of being a famous artist. In his house, you can tell a serious artist dwells as he sits at a table with pencils scattered everywhere. Jean-Michel draws from morning until night with a serious face amid a storm of papers, and he refuses to sleep until he has created a masterpiece. At night, images enchant Jean-Michel's mind, and he wakes from his dreams to add one more line. His drawings are neat and clean. His drawings are not neat or clean, nor does he color inside the lines. They are sloppy, ugly, and sometimes weird, but somehow still beautiful. His art comes from his mother, Matilda, a Puerto Rican woman who designs, sews, cooks, and cleans, and makes the house like a stylish magazine. But most important, she lies on the floor and draws with Jean-Michel on his father's old work papers. From her, he learns that art is not only in the poetry or books she reads to him, or in the theaters and but in the theaters and museums they visit. Art is in the street games of little children, in our style and the words that we speak. It is how the messy patchwork of the city creates new meaning for ordinary things. While visiting the museum, they look at his favorite works of art. Reading the story behind each work of art, this is how Jean-Michel learns what it means to be a famous artist. And this was one of the famous pieces that he liked to look at by Picasso called Guernica. Back at home, he creates art on the floor as his father, Gerard, plays the records for himself. Mama Matilda cooks arroz con Paolo and calls Jean-Michel mi amor. The energy and life of the city can be felt in each line of his drawings. As time goes by, Jean-Michel learns that art has a healing power. After a car accident, he is scared and confused. Matilda gives him books to calm his fears. It is filled with pictures of bones, skulls, and other body parts, and Jean-Michel draws from it until he learns all of it by heart, and he is no longer afraid. I think the book was an anatomy book. I think it might have even be called Gray's Anatomy. Back at home, Jean-Michel's body heals, but his heart breaks. His mother's mind is not well, and the family breaks. She no longer lies on the floor and draws with Jean-Michel, but sits by the window, singing only to the birds. Jean-Michel is confused and filled with a terrible blues when Matilda can no longer live at home. He tries drawing, but the terrible of his blues, he tries drawing the terrible out of his blues, but things are not always the same. As John Michel grows older, he visits his mother when he can, always bringing his artwork to show, telling her that one day it will be in a museum when I am a famous artist. As a teenager now, Jean Michel decides, Papa, I will be very, very famous one day, with a sly look and a twinkle in his eye. Jean Michel leaves Brooklyn for New York City, the Lower East Side, a concrete jungle where only the tough survive. During the day, dressed in a green jumpsuit splattered with paint, Jean Michel stays with his friends, sleeping on couches and floors, leaving a barrage of collages and the poem-filled papers everywhere he goes. At night, Jean Michel spray paints the walls downtown with poems and drawings that catch the eye of the artists, gallery goers, and passerbys. Under his art, he signs the name Samo instead of Jean Michel, and everybody wants to know who is Samo, and he has a little copyright sign after it, like he's famous already. Samo moves from the street corners into the art gallery walls with powerful color compositions and lines, collaging and painting on anything he can find. His art is still not neat or clean, and definitely not inside the lines, but somehow beautiful. With his magical charm, Jean Michel draws a crowd, but when it is time to work, he prefers to be alone with the radio and TV on full blast. Now, in the expensive suits and splattered with paint, he flips through stacks of magazines and open books and paints into the night, and sometimes for days at a time, while sounds and images jump into his head. Jean Michel, an artist among artists, never doubts one line, creating from a soundtrack that is all his own. People describe him as a radiant, wild, and genius child, but in his heart, he is king, so he draws crowns from himself and others that he admires. A grown man now, with the art world in his hands, Jean Michel still visits his mother when he can. And at his most important shows, above all the critics, fans, and artists he admires, the place of honor is his mother's, a queen on a throne. He is now a famous artist. The end. And if you get this book, you can read all about him on these pages.